Well, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome President and CEO of the Chamber of Southern Arizona, Joe Snell.
Good afternoon. Can we, before we get going, can we ask you to get your seat? Thank you. Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Snell, and I'm the President and CEO of the Chamber of Southern Arizona. What a great afternoon this is. You know, it's been about a year and a half since the Tucson Metro Chamber and Sun Corridor merged into the Chamber of Southern Arizona, and this is the type of event that we envisioned when we did the merger. Not only to be a group that serves economic development, but a group that tackles the issues that really impact the economy. So thank you for being here. We're thrilled that you took time out of your busy afternoon. The issue today, USMCA, is a critical issue to our region and to this state. And we're so thrilled that the governor could come down and help guide us through this. I want to thank Bombardier, a Canadian company, by the way, for hosting us and exemplifying how trade and investment among our North American countries is integral to our local economy. We also want to acknowledge, before we go too far, this beautiful facility. You can see the planes to your right over here. This beautiful facility and the community we live in is really home to some important ancestral lands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the Pasquiyaki tribe. We honor the history, resilience, and stewardship and ongoing contributions of the indigenous people who have shaped and continue to strengthen Southern Arizona. Thank you. You know, it takes all of us working together to bring prosperity to the region. That's why we're here today. The long and short of it is to discuss why USMCA is absolutely essential to our future prosperity. For large companies with thousands of employees to the smallest firms with just a few, the USMCA enables the free flow of goods and technologies that help us thrive. Mexico is Arizona's #1 trading partner with more than $28 billion in exports and imports last year. That's massive. Canada represents $6 billion in imports and exports, and is one of the top countries for foreign direct investment. We're very fortunate in Arizona to have such good trade partners, so we're thrilled. Before we get going too far, I do want to make sure that we recognize some of the people and organizations that enable business success here in Arizona. First, before I go too far, I want to recognize the the incoming chair of the Board of Directors for the Chamber of Southern Arizona, or as I like to call her, El Jefe, Allison Flynn Gaffney, who's the President and CEO of Banner Health. Allison, thank you. I'd also like to recognize another officer, Fletcher McCusker, who is the treasurer of the Chamber of Southern Arizona. Fletcher, I saw you. Thank you. And then finally, I'd like to ask the members of the Board of Directors and trustees of the Chamber to raise your hands. Where are you? And I want to thank you for your support of the Chamber of Southern Arizona. None of this would happen without you. We also have a number of elected officials here today and other key dignitaries that we need to acknowledge, because without these people, the economy would not move forward. So I'm going to ask you to please stand when I call your name, and if we could do this, maybe hold off with the applause till we get through the list, and we'll recognize everybody at the same time. First up, we have Jorge Maldonado, the Mayor of Nogales. Mayor, where are you? Thank you for coming up here. Tom Murphy, Mayor of Sarita. I saw Tom. Mayor Regina Romero, the City of Tucson, our illustrious mayor. Vice Chair Of the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Matt Hines. District 1 Supervisor Rex Scott, who is also on the Board of Directors of the Chamber. Rex. Fernando Sanchez, the Consul of Mexico in Tucson. Welcome, sir. John Officer, Town of Marana Council members here with us. CJ Camarjan, who's representing U.S. Representative Juan Siscamani. CJ, good friend of ours. You here? Thank you. Jordan Isaiah Toyos, representing U.S. Senator Ruben Gallego. Eva Masandiego with the Arizona-Mexico Commission is here. Thank you, Eva. And then finally, the governing board members of Pima Community College, Nicole Barraza, Kristen Randall, and Vice Chair Carla Bernal Morales. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you very much, all of you, for your leadership, and we appreciate your time today. I'd also like to recognize the sponsors that have made this event possible. Our supporting sponsors, Pima Community College. Yay! Bank of America. Yay! All right. HSL Properties. I know Bert's here. Yeah. Desert Diamond Casino. Thank you. We'd also like to extend our sincere thanks to the sponsors that helped our networking reception that are going to sponsor the reception afterwards. Santa Cruz County Provisional Community College District. Thank you. South 32. Thank you, Garrett. TMC Health. And finally, a very special thank you to our title sponsor, Bombardier, and General Manager of the Tucson Operations, Marco Melison. Thank you, Marco. Thank you for hosting us. I'd actually like to invite Marco up to I put him on the spot a little bit during the reception to see if he could say a couple words. Where are you, Marco? You're not getting away. Thank you for hosting us.
I'm sure you're sorry. Yeah, Joe, you seem very sorry. Yeah. Listen, I always make it up the stairs first. It's the first key initiative in having a successful speech. The second thing is my CEO always preaches health and safety. So we are in an aircraft hangar. If we ever need to leave, you can follow me. I'm the tallest person here. I'm easy to find. But you can follow the hangar doors open over there, behind the stage, down to your right. And there's also a double door right there. The other thing is that security detail, do not get alarmed if after 4 p.m. you hear people screaming and cheering loudly. The Montreal Canadiens are in Game 7 of the NHL playoffs. Anything over 4 p.m., folks, that hockey game is going on those two screens. I'm just letting you know. Okay, now that that's out of the way. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Marco Melanson. I'm the General Manager for the Bombardier Tucson Service Center. On behalf of Bombardier and the 450 employees that come in every day to this facility, it's truly a pleasure to have you with us today. I'd like to begin by saying what an honor it is to have such distinguished guests amongst us this afternoon. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs, thank you for being here. Tucson Mayor Romero, thank you for being here, along with several mayors and elected officials from surrounding cities and counties. Our partners from the Tucson Airport, valued representatives from Pima County and Pima Community College, and also Sandy Hodgkinson, who's our Senior Vice President of Strategy, Mergers, and Acquisitions, who will be participating in today's panel discussion. Your presence means a great deal to us, and not only to Bombardier, but to the entire Tucson aerospace community. I would like to extend a sincere thank you to you, Joe, and to the Chamber of Southern Arizona for organizing this event and for bringing all of us here together. Events like this do not happen by chance. They happen because of strong relationships, collaboration, and a shared vision. Also, Carla, special shout out to you for thinking of us, and we are proud to be the host today. So thank you again. And again, that's really what the USMCA is really about. Working together, creating opportunities, strengthening partnerships, supporting growth, building a more resilient and competitive North American economy. Some of you have obviously seen our aircraft out on the ramp or in the hangar. Who are we? We're a global aerospace company. We're headquartered in Canada. We focus on the design, the manufacture, and servicing of high-performance business aircraft. Our aircraft are primarily used by corporations, governments, militaries, and high-net-worth individuals. We employ thousands of people globally and play a key role in the aerospace industry, especially in North America. At our core, we're about innovation, aviation, safety, and performance. We connect people and businesses around the world. Our main product line includes the Challenger mid-size jet and the global long-range jet, such as those to your right. Our Global 7500 jet has set over 150 world speed records, and our newest version, the Global 8000, is the fastest civil aircraft since the Concorde. These aircraft are the best in the world, and all of this is possible thanks to the robust trade economy that exists in North America. In addition to building aircraft, we provide maintenance, repair, and overhaul services, such as in this hangar. We do aircraft refurbishments, we do upgrades, part distribution, technical support, pilot and technician training. These services are delivered through a global network of service centers, like this one here in Tucson, one of the largest in the network, and a center of excellence, or it's considered a center of excellence, by our valued customers. Bombardier has proudly operated in this Tucson facility since 1990, but we have over 50 years of history here in Tucson. That legacy started with Learjet, something that we respect deeply, and a legacy that we're committed to continuing. Today, this facility stands as a cornerstone of the region's aerospace industry. We've built a true home here in Tucson, and we benefit tremendously from the depth of expertise and talent that exists in this community. We're very proud to contribute an annual spend of $382 million annually to over 138 Arizona state suppliers. This ranks as the second highest supplier spend by state in the USA. We also like to think of ourselves as a good neighbor. Being part of a community means more than just doing business. It means contributing in a meaningful way. And at Bombardier, we are proud to create a support hundreds of skilled jobs right here in Southern Arizona. We work closely with Pima Community College, help sustain and grow aerospace expertise for future generations, and through programs like SkillBridge, we're honored to provide meaningful career opportunities to veterans who have served this country. In short, we're extremely proud to contribute to Southern Arizona's aerospace community. We're proud of the role we play. We're grateful to be part of such a vibrant and forward-looking region. It is also an absolute pleasure for us to host today's important discussion on USMCA, a topic that reinforces just how interconnected our industries, our economies, and our futures truly are. And with that, Joe, I'll give you back the stage.
Thank you, Marco. I don't think Bombardier really does embody the spirit of USMCA. I can tell you the last 15 years, we've seen significant investment from this company in the Tucson region. They've expanded dramatically, and we really appreciate that very much, Marco. Thank you very much. Earlier this year, I think it was March, I had the opportunity to join Governor Hobbs in Washington, D.C. Governor, I appreciate the invite. I was surprised when I got it. And there were a few of us that traveled with her as a small delegation to address USMCA, and we threw in water sustainability and the water issues. And it was a very productive trip. My eyes were open to so many things. I think it was a powerful reminder for me that Governor Hobbs absolutely understands how important trade, collaboration, and regional partnerships are for the prosperity for Arizona businesses, workers, and their communities. We had a chance to meet with dignitaries from Mexico, from Canada, and Governor, I have to tell you, getting to know you on the trip a little bit, you embody what it means to be business-friendly, represent really the mantra that Arizona's open to business. It is really my honor that you're here because you're such a strong advocate for economic growth, cross-border partnerships, and regional competitiveness. You know, at a time when the future of North America trade is critically important to communities like ours, Governor Hobbs has continued to champion collaboration and innovation that help Arizona's move forward. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to bring up to the stage and let's give a warm Southern Arizona welcome to Governor Katie Hobbs. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the Chamber of Southern Arizona for helping lead this really important conversation. As you just heard from Joe, in March of this year, I sat across from the U.S. Trade Representative in Washington, D.C. with a clear message. Arizona stands as a beacon around the world for opportunity, innovation, and progress. Our trade is at record levels. We rank #1 in the nation for foreign direct investment. Exports from Arizona businesses are growing at a record rate. We are the epicenter of the world's most advanced technologies. And the best part is, we are just getting started. But we can't continue our successful trajectory without the USMCA. This trade agreement is critical to each of our state's industries, and that is perhaps most true here in Southern Arizona, where our partners in Mexico are just a stone's throw away. Our work around the USMCA renewal began almost a year and a half ago, when I asked my team to begin preparing Arizona for this summer's joint review. And since then, no other state has done more than Arizona to show up early, informed, and united. Because we know that this is not just a trade policy discussion happening in DC. This is a decision that affects jobs in Tucson, farms in Yuma, businesses in Nogales, and families across our entire state. When it comes to Arizona's international partners, Mexico is at the very top of the list. Not only is Mexico our closest neighbor, but also our #1 trading partner, receiving nearly $15 billion in Arizona exports. Every day, goods, services, and talent move between Arizona and Mexico, fueling innovation and opportunity. Needless to say, our economies are deeply connected and increasingly interdependent. Canada, too, is a trusted partner and a major source of investment. We have strong ties with our Canadian partners across agriculture, energy, aerospace, and critical minerals, the very sectors that are driving our economy. And with hundreds of Canadian companies operating in Arizona and supporting thousands of jobs, this is not just a partnership on paper. It is a partnership that delivers real results for our people. Our hosts today are the perfect example of this. Thank you to Bombardier for welcoming us to this spectacular space and for your continued investment and expansion in Tucson. In you, we see the way companies with an integrated North American ecosystem can benefit our state. Your role in job creation and the development of a highly skilled workforce is impossible to ignore. The extent of North American trade is not just seen in a report or a spreadsheet, but throughout our supply chain. You see it in the engineers collaborating across borders, in the parts that cross multiple times before becoming a finished product, and in the workers whose livelihoods depend on those connections. A component may begin in Canada, be refined in Arizona, and be assembled in Mexico, each step creating jobs and strengthening all three economies along the way. That means USMCA matters not just to large manufacturers or exporters. It matters to all businesses, large, medium, and small, and to everyday Arizonans. To see the real-life impact of this agreement, you don't need to look any further than the food trucks that line our streets. I recently sat down with a group of food truck owners to talk about the challenges facing their small businesses. Their biggest concern is rising costs. Tariffs are driving up the price of ingredients, increasing their operating expenses and forcing them to raise prices for customers. Right here in Tucson, we are paying more to eat because of Washington's failed trade policies. Trade is important to Arizona because it's personal, not just an abstract thing politicians and economists talk about. Modern trade supports roughly 1 in 5 jobs in our state. It powers our small businesses, strengthens our supply chains, and ensures workers have a steady paycheck. It affects whether families can put food on the table, pay their bills, and live the life they deserve. And it certainly affects whether Arizona remains competitive in industries like aerospace, semiconductors, agriculture, defense, and advanced manufacturing. Let me be clear. Arizona is leading in all of these industries. We are securing opportunities for communities throughout Arizona with our dynamic and growing economy. Our farmers provide 90% of leafy greens to North America during the winter months. We are a launching pad for the AI industry, serving as an incubator for innovation. And we are a top supplier of military weapons and defense systems that keep America safe. We are powering America, feeding America, and defending America. And because that role is so central to our national economy, we knew we had to be prepared. When thinking through what the USMCA review process would look like, we wanted to approach it with a clear, data-driven understanding of how USMCA is working for Arizona and where it can work better. This is why, working through the Arizona-Mexico Commission, I commissioned the Seidman Research Institute at ASU to create the Arizona USMCA report. The findings were decisive. USMCA has worked for Arizona. It has provided stability and strengthened supply chains. It has helped businesses streamline operations across North America, and it has supported job creation. Of course, this doesn't mean the agreement is perfect. I heard directly from businesses that there is room for improvement. USMCA 2.0 could strengthen rules of origin beyond the automotive sector. It could enhance labor and environmental compliance, strengthen legal protections for Arizona companies, and reinforce environmental and energy cooperation, to name a few of the suggestions we're looking at. But overwhelmingly, what's best for Arizona, and by extension America, is not a complete overhaul. We need continuity, refinement, and stability. One of the study participants put it best: North America needs to stay united for all businesses, tourism, and economic development to thrive. I couldn't agree more. On that same visit to DC in March, I was joined by a delegation of Arizona business leaders to advocate for a fair renewal of the USMCA. While we were there, our message to leaders in Washington was simple: protect what works. Make adjustments where needed, but do not undermine the trilateral framework that has made America prosperous for over a decade. It was disheartening to hear from this administration, the administration that first put the USMCA in place, that not only would tariffs be a component of any deal moving forward, but also that they plan to skirt any congressional review. At this moment, we need to figure out if the United States, Canada, and Mexico will move forward in competition with each other, or as a united trade bloc that will compete against the rest of the world. And to me, it's clear that the path forward is to build stronger partnerships with our allies, not create uncertainty that weakens supply chains and raises costs. Today, you will hear from a distinguished group of panelists whose insights were part of the report that you have in front of you. Their expertise reflects the real-world experience of the industries that keep Arizona competitive. And it is exactly these kinds of conversations that have allowed Arizona to lead the national discussion around USMCA, something we can only do because we have chosen to listen first. We have relied on the experience of our business community, allowing us to approach this review with data and a unified voice rather than nebulous theory. Your voices continue to be incredibly important in ensuring the future of North American federal trade policy reflects the needs of Southern Arizona businesses and workers. And as we approach the USMCA joint review, I will continue being Arizona's voice in Washington. This is our opportunity to renew an agreement that puts America first, while recognizing that our strength comes from a competitive, connected North America. Arizona thrives with trade, and together, with leaders like all of you, we are shaping our trade future. Thank you so much.
I told you, pretty special leader. Thank you again, Governor Hobbs. Before we transition into our industry panel discussion, I'd like to invite a few of our valued representatives up here, representatives from the City of Tucson, Pima County, to share their perspectives on why USMCA is so important to the regional economy. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of the City of Tucson, the Honorable Regina Romero.
Alrighty, so I passed the first test, Marco. Made it through those stairs. Buenas tardes. Thank you all so much for coming. My name is Regina Romero. I'm the mayor of the city of Tucson, the beautiful city of Tucson. I can always, every time that I say that, I get very excited because I just can't believe I'm the mayor of the city of Tucson. And it's been almost 7 years, so I really want to appreciate the Chamber for inviting me to join the conversation today. Really appreciate you all bringing us together to have such an important and timely conversation. Thanks to Marco Malarcon and the Bombardier Aviation Tucson Servicing Center for hosting us today. Appreciate that very much. And I want to again thank the governor, the Arizona-Mexico Commission, and our business leaders, community partners, elected officials, and everyone joining us today to discuss the future of the USMCA and what the USMCA means to Southern Arizona. Tucson and Southern Arizona region have always been connected to Mexico. Economically, culturally, historically, and through family and community ties that span generations. Many people like me grew up immersed in both countries, both cultures, and both economies. As you may have heard, many economic analysts describe the U.S.-Mexico borderlands, which includes Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, California, Sonora, and Baja California, as one mega region. Because supply chains operate across borders almost as a single industrial ecosystem under the USMCA. We are part of one of the world's largest integrated trade and manufacturing corridors, with economic output and trade activity that rivals or exceeds major national economies. At the same time, Canada is one of Arizona's biggest investors and consistently among Arizona's top export markets and trading partners. Arizona exports billions of dollars in goods to Canada annually, including electronics, machinery, aerospace products. We have been maintaining a strong economic ties through extremely important sectors involving clean energy, semiconductors, aerospace, and critical mineral supply chains. The state of Arizona and its cities like Tucson are some of the fastest growing economies in the country. We are currently positioned to establish ourselves as one of the country's most important advanced economic states, driven by semiconductors, aerospace, defense, batteries, optics, photonics, and logistics. That is why I believe the renewal of the USMCA is crucial for our long-term success. It would be devastating to see our economic progress and momentum squandered if USMCA is not renewed. The success of Tucson is directly connected to the strength of our cross-border partnerships. USMCA helps companies expand. It strengthens supply chains. It supports jobs, including right here in Tucson and Southern Arizona. And it creates opportunities for businesses on both sides of the border to innovate and compete together. As conversations continue nationally around trade policy and the future review of USMCA, it is critical that regions like ours and Tucson have a voice at the table. We understand the importance of efficient ports of entry, reliable infrastructure, workforce readiness, and policies that support business growth. We also know that our future competitiveness depends on investing in people, creating pathways for education, innovation, and workforce training. Supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs is equally important, as the governor said. Tucson is uniquely positioned to lead in this moment. We are home to world-class educational institutions, a growing technology ecosystem, a strong manufacturing base, emerging industries, and a resilient entrepreneurial spirit here in Tucson. And most importantly, we are a community that understands that effective collaboration between public and private sector partners is imperative for economic growth. Not working in silos where institutions, industries, and governments operate independently from one another, but instead building strong partnerships that align our shared beliefs and values and leverage our collective strengths and create long-term prosperity. That's what we're good at here in Tucson and Southern Arizona. I want to thank Governor Hobbs again for her leadership in this conversation. To the Chamber of Commerce of Southern Arizona, thank you for convening this important conversation. And thank you to everyone here today for being part of a continued effort to strengthen Tucson's economy and our cross-border collaboration and partnership. Muchísimas gracias, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Mayor Romero. Appreciate your leadership. City of Tucson's critical to our prosperity moving forward. Just as important, though, is Pima County. And next we have up Dr. Matt Hines, who is the Vice Chair of the Pima County Board of Supervisors. He also, this is your district, I believe, Dr. Hines. This is your district. So we really appreciate that, and I'm sure you're pretty proud. So without further ado, let me bring up Dr. Matt Hines. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a privilege to be here. Thank you very much, Joe. And on behalf of Pima County, thank you to Governor Hobbs for joining us today and also for her leadership on this incredibly important issue that affects really every one of us. I edited my remarks sitting right there, and I can't always read my handwriting, so I'm sure this will be fine. But I do have the privilege of being the supervisor for this district right here, representing the 220,000 or so folks right here in this part of Pima County. And more than that, though, I'm also a hospital physician serving patients in one of our largest healthcare systems here in Southern Arizona. And beyond the government work and my work in healthcare, I'm also a small business owner. So I do have a lot of various pursuits that have given me a pretty unique perspective on how business gets done here in Pima County and here in Southern Arizona. And as a supervisor, as a physician, I see every day firsthand how families are really struggling more with how to afford basic living expenses, food, utilities, gas to get to work. And in Pima County, over one half, I think it's close to 60%, of public school children qualify for free and reduced lunches. And I don't need to explain to you what that means. This is a county that is suffering disproportionately from poverty. Now, I've learned also that there's no single solution that's going to make our region prosper. We need, of course, the job growth that comes, much of which comes from the USMCA. We need workforce development so that we have the right people in the right positions with the right training. And we need a diversified tax base to be able to provide the services and amenities that make this region such a great place to live. And we also need partnerships across all jurisdictions and across borders especially. And that's why we're all here today. As many of us are in this room here contributing as we get close to our common goal, creating opportunities that bring prosperity to everyone who calls this slice of the Sonoran Desert home. The USMCA is a core component of our ability to prosper. And I want to thank the Chamber of Southern Arizona for being the convener that brings together all the different sectors, business, education, and government, because it will take all of us telling our stories, working together to amplify the message and to ensure that we have the policies in place for our region to thrive. And I personally look forward to the conversations today and to those that will continue as we work toward this common goal. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. Really appreciate your leadership and everything else you're doing. You know, I noticed, we talk about Pima County. I did want to take a moment. I saw Jan Lesher walk in. Jan, where are you? Somewhere in here. I want to recognize Jan Lesher, the administrator of Pima County. We would not move forward without her leadership in the region. Speaking of important people, last but not least, I did want to bring up Supervisor Rex Scott, who is the District 1 Supervisor and also on the Chamber Board of Directors, to give you a few remarks. Rex is an ardent supporter of economic development and, frankly, one of the smartest people I know. Rex, why don't you come up and say a few things? Thank you.
Let me first say to my colleague from District 2, even though you're a doctor and you have the handwriting emblematic of your profession, as a former English teacher, Matt, I've always been able to read your writing. Before getting to the topics that bring us together today, I really hope that all of us, the next time we see Governor Hobbs, will thank her for her support of Rio Nuevo in the state budget discussions. All of us are grateful that she is aware of Rio Nuevo's stellar track record and the role it has played in the revitalization of the entire area it serves. Rio Nuevo has earned broad bipartisan support in Pima County. We just voted 5-0 to send a message to the governor in support of the continuation of Rio Nuevo. And we know that she will continue to see its value to both the local and state economies. Southern Arizona is uniquely positioned for international trade with both our North American neighbors. We have the proximity to the Mexican border and a shared culture thousands of years old. We have our primary industries, such as aerospace and defense, that align closely with the strengths of many Canadian businesses. It isn't news to anyone here that our economies are tightly entwined, and history shows the wisdom of embracing free and fair trade between all nations. Pima County takes these issues seriously, and we are working in earnest with many partners across the state to reaffirm our relationships across the border and to simultaneously strengthen business opportunities between our three countries. Our efforts with Mexico include arranging inbound and outbound delegations to our respective markets to share best practices and facilitate business-to-business meetings to make the necessary connections. Signing memoranda of understanding that encourage knowledge and cultural sharing. Identifying ways in which we can share and train our respective workforces, and creating programs that directly connect businesses in both countries that facilitate supply and manufacture chain integration, thereby strengthening our respective existing businesses. With regard to Canada, the county continues to work diligently with our partners in the Canada-Arizona Business Council to understand cycles of investment and opportunities from Canadian companies in Arizona, as well as how the economic relationship is structured and supported through the USMCA. This also includes identifying areas where we can support these opportunities, not only more directly, but how we can also work together to advocate for a stronger USMCA. Events like this are important because they give us a chance to raise awareness of issues that cross jurisdictional boundaries and to think strategically and regionally about the future, what our priorities are, and our plans to make them happen. Moving on, I now have the privilege of introducing a panel of local business leaders who will start these critical conversations. And leading the panel is Carla Bernal Morales. Please give her a big hand. Carla is the Chief Partnerships Officer at the Chamber of Arizona. Carla will be asking panelists questions that explore the real-world impact of the USMCA on business operations and growth, cross-border supply chains and workforce, risks and opportunities tied to the 2026 renewal of USMCA, and what businesses need from policymakers. Please welcome Carla and our distinguished panel.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Please have a seat. I will dare to say that I probably have the funnest job in this whole event because I get to hang out with my friends and talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is economic development, cross-border collaboration, and partnership. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you all for joining us and sharing this conversation with us. First and foremost, I want to go ahead and thank everyone for joining us like I just did and having the conversation of the future of USMCA and what it means to us here in Southern Arizona. As Rex mentioned, my name is Carla Bernal Morales. As the Chief Partnerships Officer, that is probably my favorite part about saying that is the partnerships part, because that is my favorite thing to do in the world, to bring people together, to bring collaborations. But today, more importantly, we've assembled three outstanding leaders who represent the backbone of our economy, who navigate the realities of USMCA every single day through trade, manufacturing, logistics, agriculture, aerospace, and cross-border collaboration. So please help me in welcoming our distinguished panelists. We have with us Sandy Hodgkinson, Senior Vice President of Strategy and Mergers and Acquisitions at Bombardier, one of Southern Arizona's largest aerospace employers and a major force in advanced manufacturing services. We also have with us Giovanni Garcin, President of Micromex, a leader in nearshore contract manufacturing and logistics serving clients across North America. And last but certainly not least, we have Georgina Felix, Director of Operations of Foreign Affairs for the Fresh Produce Association of Americas, representing the vital cross-border produce industry that moves billions of dollars in goods through our region every single year. So now, yes, a big round of applause for them, please. So I know you want to learn more about them, so just so you all know, we have full biographies for each one of our panelists today, and also, and you can find our program in the QR code. You've seen it on the screen. But also keep in mind that we will be available, and more importantly, they'll be available during the reception hour. So if you have questions that come up during our conversation and you want to follow up, keep that in mind. They'll be available to conversate with you guys and answer any questions you may have after our panel conversation. So now, as we've heard, these three sectors, aerospace, manufacturing, and fresh produce, are deeply interconnected through North American supply chains and heavily dependent on strong and stable USMCA framework. So today's conversation will explore how the agreement supports operations, investments, workforce development, and economic growth in a region, while also looking ahead for the 2026 review and renewal process. My number one question is for all of you all at the same time. From your perspective, how important is USMCA to the success, stability, and long-term competitiveness of your industry here in Southern Arizona? And as a part of that, if you could please share specific examples of how the agreement has positively impacted your operations, workforce, competitiveness, and growth. Sandy, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Great. Well, from the aerospace and defense industry in particular, the USMCA renewal process is extremely vital. The aerospace and defense industry has been really built upon the strong relationships between our three countries. I mean, I am representing here today Bombardier, but we are a Canadian, American, and Mexican company when you look at the workforce that we have and the DNA of our product and our culture. If it wasn't for trade agreements like USMCA that make us stronger together with our employee base and with our technology and with the capabilities we can leverage from each of these ecosystems, we would not be one of the leading aerospace and defense communities in the world. In particular, USMCA gives in the aerospace and defense a real importance attached to both supply chain security, and you need the necessity of long-term planning. In aerospace and defense, we plan long ahead on how we're going to build our aircraft and how we're going to participate in that ecosystem. And you have to have certainty in trade to be able to do that. You have to have a stable, trained workforce. You have to have safety requirements that are flawless and above reproach. And you can only do that if you have a stable workforce that's trained, highly trained and competitive, like the workforce we have here, building from Pima Community College in the entire Tucson area. And so for us in particular, the USMCA renewal is absolutely fundamental.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And yeah, when we talked about the 450 employees that you have just here locally, that's obviously important to all of those families. So thank you for sharing that, Sandy. Giovanni, tell us a little bit more.
I think after listening to all the numbers and stuff that we can all, rave about, the big thing is what Sandy said, is predictability. As a small business in Tucson, what we try to do is provide a service to customers, and the larger they are, to your point, the longer they want that stability to exist. So if you don't have a predictable trading agreement, then it's really tough for us to drive more business to the region. And I also want to talk, it's about the evolution. So, we've had agreements with different countries for a very long time. And it's clear that NAFTA increased our trade with Mexico, with Canada. And then when we made the change in the early 2000s, or in the late 2000s with Trump's first administration, it continued to grow and strengthen those partnerships between the three countries. So I think really looking at trends, understanding where they're going, and adapting to the trends, but not cutting off what's already there that works, and we have clear evidence of it working, is really important. So the more we do that, the more value it brings to our region, the more people like us can bring other customers to Arizona and also provide services to the customers that Arizona is attracting.
Wonderful, thanks for that. Georgina, tell us a little bit more from your perspective over at Fresh Produce Association of the Americas.
Sure. I'm so glad Sandy went first because I was hearing her and I was like, all of that applies to produce.
That's right.
Probably not the PIMA trainee workforce, but everything else does apply to produce. And talking about since the inception of NAFTA, so not only USMCA, but so we're going 30 plus years back, actually consumption of fruits and vegetables in the US has increased 14%. And that has to do with the fact that chains in Canada, US, and Mexico are so well integrated that they are able to provide fruits and vegetables year-round. So it's no longer just a season. You're able to find strawberries throughout the entire year, or blueberries, or tomatoes. We will talk about tomatoes later, talking about affordability. But so it is very important, as Andy was saying, predictability, just as Giovanni also said. So it's also one thing to have the tariff-free, free trade for all. That's really important, especially when you're trying to feed North America. You want to make these commodities available and affordable. So those are one of the things that really USMCA have brought into the table. Also to add with that, of course, the cooperation among the three countries, and also have the certainty that when you're doing business either in Canada or in the US or in Mexico, there is always a legal background that is going to support you and is going to support your business.
Appreciate that, Georgina. The thing that I appreciate the most is that when we talked about this, one of the things that when we were thinking about our panelists, one of the things that we wanted to do is ensure that we could touch every single person in our community to connect them to USMCA. And I'm sorry, but food connects every single one of us. I'm a foodie, I love to eat. And to think about how that impacts every single one of us, we can talk about supply chains and manufacturing, but at the end of the day, what the Fresh Produce Association is doing to support USMCA will directly impact every single one of our families here in Southern Arizona. Speaking of supply chains, Giovanni, I'm going to come back to you. Nearshoring has become one of the biggest economic conversations in North America. What are you seeing firsthand from companies looking to move operations closer to U.S. market, and how is Southern Arizona positioned to benefit?
Yeah, so I want to take it away from tariffs, because tariffs is this big conversation all the time, but it's not the only decision that makes a company choose a partner. So the two things that I always try to steer the conversation to is time and cash flow. When you're buying stuff overseas, there's usually a long lead time. There's higher minimum order quantities. You have to put a lot of investment before you even get the product. And this is after working different time zones with different engineers and all the other blocks that happen working on the other side of the world. So what we want to do is have people understand that you're also going to save time. We're swifter, we're quicker, and it allows you to put your money in innovation and into research and development and maybe communities to build up your workforce so that you can be more competitive for longer. So that's the first thing I try to do. And clearly, you know, when COVID happened, it exposed a big kind of hole in the supply chain for the US, where we were left without supplies and we were left without certain necessities that, you know, we had. But the companies that did invest in creating those supply chains that were closer to home actually continued to provide the services, and we were able to also shift and build products that weren't normally under our scope to help provide more products to the companies. So nearshoring isn't just labor, it's time to market, it's keeping your cash in hand, and it's figuring out how you can continue to improve your business at an innovation level.
Perfect. Can I add a quick follow-up on that?
Yeah.
What advantages do you see that Southern Arizona region have compared to other manufacturing corridors?
Yeah, I mean, the proximity is there. We're small. We have obviously Pima Community College, we have the U of A, we have ASU, And one of the things that I always see is, I grew up here. I went to school at U of A. And all my friends go to school, they graduate, either they go to Raytheon or they leave.
Right.
And so it's really important for me, as a business owner here, to bring more business here so that we can keep the good talent that we actually produce in Arizona.
I agreed. We support that. Yes, please, a round of applause for that. As a board member for Pima Community College, I 100% support that, absolutely. So Sandy, I want to come back to you. Aerospace manufacturing relies on highly integrated global and North American supply chains. How important are trade certainty and cross-border coordinations when companies like Bombardier are making long-term investments and operation decisions? And I know you touched on it, but can you talk a little bit more in detail to us? What does that mean for you and as Bombardier and for manufacturing overall?
I mean, I think aerospace and defense has a very rich history. I mean, going back, whether it's NAFTA or otherwise, you look back at the WTO agreement on civil aviation, and it has always been understood that aviation, aerospace, and defense are unique. They're unique because of these highly differentiated and specialized supply chains that involve avionics and aerostructures and engine repair and overhaul, a lot of which specialized technology exists right here. And so there's always been this tariff-free sense that's required in aviation, partly because there's a very long lead time to certify aircraft for safety reasons. Obviously, we need to make sure that supply chain parts get to aircraft for safety purposes globally. And so this has been a long-standing legacy. So when you look at USMCA, really the continuation of a tariff-free zone for aerospace and defense is critical. I'm a retired military veteran. I've spent time, focused on long-term military planning, and you need to really plan far, far ahead, not just in civil aviation, but also in military missions. And to be able to have the source to protect our country and to protect our allies and friends and freedoms around the world, we also need to make sure that we can guarantee that the supply chain will be there, that the talent will be trained and ready to go, and that our pilots will be ready and safe wherever they go and to protect us.
I appreciate that, the predictability, as you guys all mentioned it earlier. Thank you for that. So Georgina, I'm going to go back to you now. The fresh produce industry depends on speed, again, predictability, and efficiency every single day.
Yeah.
How critical is USMCA to maintaining reliable agricultural trade flows between Mexico, Arizona, and the rest of North America?
Well, that's the key. So, especially here in Arizona, one of the key components of the USMCA has been the partnership between the governments. And it has also have to do with strengthening customs and customs facilitation. So the work between the three countries, and especially between the US and Mexico, making sure that all the produce that is coming from Mexico can go through customs in a seamless process, be inspected, and also getting the technology so that we can process as fast as possible the product. That's one of the key. So enhanced transparency, sharing the information between the two countries, knowing what's coming in advance. And so when it gets to the US, you already know what shipment has, and if there is something that shouldn't be there, you are able to notice right away. So these are the things. Also, the fact that, as I mentioned before, that we have an integrated supply chain. So these are the things that make sure that we have, just as the grower, custom house brokers, the importer, distributor, and then all the trucking companies that are able to distribute these fruits and vegetables throughout all North America and feed families. So everything has to be very well coordinated. It also is very important, as we were talking, to make sure that you know what's going to happen, that you know what your costs are, that you are not planning just weekly or monthly, that you are able to plan seasons ahead, also in regards to investment, so that you know how much you're going to be bringing to the US or Canada. All of these things are key components of the produce industry, and of course also key components of providing secure jobs here in the US, and of course Mexico and in Canada. Most of, not most, but many companies, as I said, are very well integrated. There are growers that grow commodities in Canada, in the US and Mexico. In this way, as I had said, are able to have the availability of the product throughout the entire year and work with distribution centers and retails and so on to feed North America.
Georgina, if I may quick follow-up as well.
Sure.
Can you tell me from your experience and from the people that you've worked with, what happens when border delays or policy uncertainty disrupts those supply chains? Can you give me, I'm looking at her because I know she can.
Sure. So when there is a delay at the port of entry, so we're talking about perishable products. So it's something that you cannot keep in our warehouse, waiting for the perfect time to cross. So these are products that have been harvested probably within less than a day, less than 24 hours. If it's coming from Sonora, it's that same day. If it's coming from further down Mexico, it's within a day, which goes back to proximity that Giovanni was saying. It's like having all of this production area in your background, so it's right next door. And so the fact that you're having to wait because there is a disruption, because there is a checkpoint in Mexico that is delaying the produce, or there is a failure at customs, or whatever happens within that, you are robbing from the life shelf of that product. And you're also making it more expensive for the person who's importing it and the person who's producing it. And therefore, that translates into whatever is coming along, all the way down to the consumer. So actually, that's in the best of cases, right? You made it more expensive. In the worst of cases, the produce is no longer sellable. So you just wasted thousands of dollars that are no longer gonna feed anyone, and it's just gonna go to the trash.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. The ripple effect.
That's right.
That it has. I appreciate you for elaborating on that. So you've all talked about workforce in each one of your answers throughout the program. And if I, again, take a point of privilege, I want to take this moment before we go further to say a huge congratulations to all of the graduates of 2026 from the University of Arizona, from Pima Community College and the Santa Cruz County Provisional College, who's graduating tomorrow. So big congratulations to all of our graduates, because that is our future workforce for sure.
Yeah.
So all three of your industries depend heavily on workforce development and the infrastructure investment. What do we need to be doing as a region and as policymakers to ensure that Southern Arizona remains competitive over the next decade? Sandy, we'll start with you.
Well, first, I think you're off to a great start with the fantastic universities you have around here and the partnerships you have with industry. You are definitely investing in your young generation. I mean, we're so proud of the 450 employees that we have here at Bombardier and from this region and from the partnerships that we've developed here. I mean, the most important thing is to continue to foster these relationships with schools, to make sure, as we heard from Joe, that the talent stays local and sees opportunities here so that they don't just leave and go to jobs somewhere outside, because really having that homegrown area is going to really help. And I think the relationships that you have fostered with your Mexican sort of partners, as well as your Canadian partners in the north, I think is really going to help keep this global feeling here and this area of excitement that you have in this ecosystem. And I think that will retain people too. So just keeping the energy alive, keeping the education focus, and really pouring as much as you can into the families that are here and the workforce you have.
Thanks, Sandy. Giovanni.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. I think that's really what you got to do. You got to have the jobs. You got to have the ears to listen to what the kids and the younger people want, what would allow them to stay. it's not always about attracting businesses. It's like I said, it's about keeping the talent that we're creating. And as a small business in Mexico, we're in a little town that's a little farther away from Nogales, and we set shop. Well, I didn't. I wasn't alive, but my dad set the shop up there because when you walk into the border town of Nogales, everything is so massive, and he just needed something small. So he didn't want to compete with that. So we don't have to compete with Phoenix. We don't have to compete with other big cities that we have. What we have to do is listen to the people we have here and what businesses fit in this town's system. And that's really what we're trying to do, and that's what we do in the little town that we're in with 16,000 people. We give them the same benefits, the transportation, the doctor, the lunch every day. So it's not about competing, it's about making sure that you keep the people that are in your area.
I appreciate that, Giovanni. I love the fact that when you talked about your employees and how you're looking at individuals holistically. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the whole person, not just an employee, but as somebody that's part of your family and you care about all the things.
Yeah, we got generations. We have grandma, mom, and daughter, or son, all working in the factory. And our turnover, is less than 1%. Wow. And it comes from, people will move for the dollar if you don't take care of them, if you don't nurture them and help them grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Georgina, tell us your perspective of workforce development and workforce pipelines.
Sure. So just the produce industry employs about 5,000 people in Arizona. And out of those 5,000, more or less, 4,000 are in Santa Cruz County. And I agree with what Giovanni and Sandy both said. We have great universities. We have great partners in the community colleges. But we need to keep that workforce within the community. And I think that's a challenge in all kinds of industries, including the produce industry. It's really hard to keep good employees and to bring more professionals into the produce industry, especially in the border region. One of the things that I think Arizona and Sonora as a mega region are doing fantastic work with the Arizona-Mexico Commission and the Comisión Sonora Arizona. They do fantastic work. They coordinate great. They have a bunch of different projects that are in for facilitating trade and security and agriculture, you name it. Another example that I want to bring up about the mega region, what Arizona is doing, they have a BLU, the Border Liaison Unit, and it's part of ADOT, the Transport Department. And what they do is they teach the drivers and mechanics on Mexico or on the border side of what are the things that they need to be checking every time they come across. And so that's a great way of cooperation. And I think both states, Arizona and Sonora, are doing it already.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that specific example with us. You mentioned something, Arizona-Mexico Commission. I know we mentioned Eva's joining us today. We want to thank you because you all have in your seats the report from the Arizona-Mexico Commission, USMCA report. If you guys need a copy of that, please let us know. We have a QR code for it. But thank you to the Arizona-Mexico Commission for bringing those reports and sharing it with our guests today. Thank you, Eva. So, Georgina, I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about risk and opportunities for the 2026 review. Actually, I'm going to ask the question to all three of you guys, but I'm going to start with Georgina. As we look ahead for 2026 USMCA review and renewal discussions, what concerns you the most about potential instability or uncertainty or surrounding the agreement?
Okay. There's a couple of things that I would say keep me awake at night. So one is, as they mentioned before, wanting of this administration to set up tariffs for everything. And that just increases the cost. Personally, tariff to me is just a tax in disguise. So, and really at the end of the day, we as consumers are the ones who end up paying that additional cost. That's one thing. The second thing, in regards to agriculture, there has been some talks, even from the first time that USMCA was negotiated, about setting up a seasonality provision. And not to go into many details about what it is, but basically it would just block, either through tariffs or quotas or a mixture of both, the produce that can come to the US. And just as an integrated industry, that is terribly disruptive. At the same time, as a consumer and someone that likes to eat fruits and vegetables, that would just increase how much I would have to pay for those products if the products are even available. So those are, if I have to boil it down to those two things, that's what keeps my industry up at night.
Thank you for sharing that, and I share the sentiment. Thank you so much. Giovanni, from a manufacturing standpoint, what are your thoughts?
So this renegotiation, there's three things that can happen. Either we keep it the way it is, we update it, or we get out of it completely. The get out of it completely, I can't fathom a world where that happens, but how they're going to update it is really important. Because that's what everyone's looking at. That's our competitive advantage in Arizona. That's why we got TSMC. There's so many things, and us as producers with the client, no matter what tariff. This is why tariffs to me is one of those terms. No matter what tariff there is, there's always been something there. There's always been something if it's made in Mexico or made in Italy or made in Canada. But the big thing is we do try to see how we can limit the exposure to the end consumer. Whether we I work with Bombardier and we can do, some automation that saves us costs. We can do higher quantity counts, which saves us labor efficiencies. So we always try to reduce the impact to the customer before we just increase the cost. Now with produce, it could be very different. It's a different industry. Things go bad. That would be terrifying if I had to deal with expiring stock. But yeah, that's the big thing. So when a company comes here, they're sometimes hedging their bet. They're saying, I'm going to have 90% in Asia, and I'm going to have something here that helps me keep the flow in case we run into things. So contingency plans, if we make it a good deal, can turn into larger partnerships. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing to me, is how do we make it stronger, not leave it the same. There's always something we can improve. Last time we negotiated AI, data centers, power, none of that was as big of a deal as it is now. It was mostly EVs and vehicles. So I think I have hope that things will be hashed out in a way, and that producers and businesses will work together to minimize any impact if there was something.
Absolutely, right. And it's these kinds of conversations that allow us to speak to our legislators and advocate for those changes, for the conversations that need to be had about the direct impact, whether it be Fresh Produce Association or manufacturing. Sandy, from an aerospace standpoint, what?
Yeah, I mean, there's similar themes to what I've already hit on, but I mean, the number one priority in aerospace and defense is safety and security of our product and our people. I mean, here we service aircraft at this facility here and in many others. Our supply chain isn't just in building aircraft to start with that protect us and that to fly us in the skies, but also we're repairing those that are already in service. And so having a secure, reliable, trustworthy source for your entire supply chain from top to bottom is absolutely essential. We've been building these relationships during the 50 years that we've been partners here in Tucson. We've built up these strong relationships with our current integrated supply chain with Canada and Mexico. So when you think about what risk you would infuse into the system by not having that, or having a would-be different actor who's providing supply chain materials that we don't have the confidence in, really is disruptive to the entire force, and it will put people out of work. And so I think when we look at, from certainly a Bombardier perspective, you know, we have 3,000 employees here in the U.S., 2,000 in Mexico, and thousands more in Canada. This unified, highly trained workforce is what gets the job done, and that's at risk if we can't get this renewed.
Absolutely. And you know, I was going to ask you the question of what impact could uncertainty around the trade policy have on investment decisions, but you've touched on it. But tell me a little bit more about the investment decisions, hiring, and expansion opportunities. If this were not to go, this trade agreement would not be able to go renewed. Tell me a little bit more about how Bombardier sees that.
Well, look, we're very committed to this region, as has been evidenced from, again, this 50-year history. We are deeply embedded with the workforce and the culture here. So I foresee that we will have a long partnership for a long time to come. That being said, on a broader scale, obviously the failure to renew USMCA could have impacts for aerospace and defense at large and the employee base that's been so highly integrated among these three countries. I mean, we have a regional powerhouse right now in aerospace and defense, and this ecosystem that's grown here in Arizona as well as in other parts of the US, they're all at risk if we have a non-renewal of this. We can't necessarily rely on the pre-existing agreements to fall back on. I mean, there has always been a sense that aerospace and defense is that kind of space where you'll try to find some agreement. So I remain very optimistic, but we still need to continue to urge that this get renewed.
Absolutely, yeah, and the optimism I think is then very apparent in the response that we got about this event and the conversations we'll have. So we'll share that optimism with you. Giovanni, from the perspective of manufacturers and suppliers, what opportunities could come from strengthening or modernizing USMCA moving forward? You had touched on it a little bit earlier about the opportunities for strengthening it or modifying a little bit. Tell me a little bit more what you mean about...
Well, I mean, like we were getting into the talk, I think earlier we had a conversation about the codes and the system that we have. And that has been so confusing for so many years. I mean, we do everything from refurbishment of a coffee maker to trying to get some supplies to actually build the coffee maker. I'll give you this example. It's the grinder has 10 different codes that it could be. And I wasn't around, but back in the day, you could go to a customs expert, a broker, and you could say, this is my plea. This is what I think it should be classified as. Am I good continuing? And you'd get a response fairly quickly. Now with that response, you could still submit, but it could take months to get a clear answer for someone to make a decision on if you're classifying a product correctly, which obviously just delays timelines. And as you know, you want to be first to market. You want to be quick when you're changing supply chains or bringing product over here. So I think that's a clear area that we can improve on, whether it be a global system or a much more regulated, strict system, but it comes with the caveat where you don't want to make it too complicated, because then you have companies like mine where we don't necessarily have a compliance office that all they do is compliance all day. So if you regulate it too far, it could affect the small businesses as well. So that's where I think we're going to walk that fine line of finding an improvement where we don't have the bad players that are clearly making a very beneficial call and then dealing with the consequences if they come. And then you have the good players that are trying to produce the right way, but then we can get in trouble if we didn't, pay for a compliance person or some extra aid. So I think that's one area that we can definitely improve on. And as always, finding ways to stay on top of the times and remain competitive so that we don't slow down the process, but we actually promote quicker regulatory rules that help our businesses get to market first, because we don't have we don't have everything down the street. We have to go global most of the time.
Right.
So the more regulation, the more strict rules, it slows down the American businesses and that are trying to come and be competitive quicker. So I really think there's a really fine line that we have to walk on that one.
Perfect, thank you. And I have a personal follow-up question on that, but I'll ask during the reception hour so we can have Georgina give us a little bit more. What should policymakers better understand about the real-world impact trade policy has on consumers, food supply chains, and regional economies like ours? You touched on it a little bit earlier. Can you elaborate a little bit more? What is the message that we want our policymakers to hear from us?
Sure. So we have the perfect case scenario, the perfect example, and that's with tomatoes. And I think we all have experienced how pricey tomatoes have been in the past couple of months. So disturbing trade as it is, tomatoes have to pay 17% more or less duty, dumping duty. And what this has done, and it could be replicated with other products if it happens, or if the USMCA is not well thought, is that there were producers that definitely said, like, you know, I'm out of this business, I'm not going to continue doing tomatoes. There were other businesses that reduced the amount of tomatoes that they were planting this year. In addition with that, you also have the other producing area, the southeast of the US, which naturally have been competitors with Mexico. But this year, for example, this other production area had horrible weather. They had freezes, they basically could not have a decent crop. So what this left was only Mexico, which was already weakened because of previous policies, had to supply all of the US in Canada. And so that's what increased prices the way it did. And as consumers, we are the ones that end up paying for whatever decision it's made at either DC, Mexico, or Ottawa. So these are the things that need to be looked into consideration. Unfortunately, not always happens. There are certainly things that can be improved in the USMCA. As I was talking, cooperation, there is the SPS, which is the safety and phytosanitary, sanitary and phytosanitary discussions where the three countries can get together and have the same policies for certain pests or policies that have to do, of course, customs cooperation. That's a great thing where customs, both US, Mexico, and Canada could share their information. Those are things that can be improved, that can be worked on, and of course, I would say is like if they could understand, keep trade free. I mean, we don't need tariffs. I don't think anyone likes them, especially if you're trying to make the region stronger. If what you're trying to do is compete with other countries around the world, why would you put tariffs or quotas or anything with your trading partners?
Thank you for that. And absolutely, we are definitely trying to make our economy stronger. So we'll keep that in mind. So I'm going to actually ask the same question to both you, Giovanni and Sandy. If you could collectively deliver one message to federal policymakers ahead of the 2026 review, what would it be? Giovanni.
Me first? Okay. Small business, medium business. You know, I think there's something like 33 million companies in the US, and 30 million of them are small, medium-sized businesses. So we are the largest employers of people in the country. So again, it goes back to my regulatory rules. I'm not saying don't make it unsafe. I'm saying make it affordable, make it something that we can comply with as well. In a world with private equity and mergers and all this, it's tough to stay alive if your margin keeps shrinking. So really, it would be pro small business, medium business. Let us continue to provide jobs and continue to be a big workforce in the U.S.
Thank you. I agree. Sandy?
I mean, the message comes back to, free trade really harnesses all the potential of what we have in America and what our workers have to give. And so we need to continue to grow that so that we'll continue to be a leading, powerhouse in the global economy. In aerospace and defense in particular, we are leading aerospace and defense provider, probably the leading in the world. And to keep that competitive advantage, we need to bring all the talent we have in this region together, and we need to keep a safe supply chain. We have to do long-term, long-range planning, and we have to train our workforces, and we have to stay unified, because that is exactly how we're going to keep a free market economy leading in this world.
Wonderful. I couldn't possibly agree more. I appreciated all of your comments. Before we go any further, I want to ask all the panelists again, what opportunities do you see specifically here for Southern Arizona to further position itself as leaders in trade, manufacturing, aerospace, logistics, agriculture, and innovation within North America? What makes us special? What do you see here in Southern Arizona that can help strengthen our position? Any of you can start.
Want to go first?
Just as I had mentioned before in the conversation that we have, the cooperation that we have between the region, that gives a strength to Arizona that I don't think it can be replicated elsewhere. I don't think any other border state has a relationship that it has with Mexico the way Arizona has it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the culture of Mexico is ingrained in the culture of Arizona. It's a big mixture of it. And I mean, it goes back to the workforce development programs with RDA. People continue to invest in the young generation, and then look for localization of supply chain so that we can keep those jobs here and grow them, not necessarily for the big corporation, but with all that aid around it. And really that's the big one, is how do we retain? Because if you have employees that you're constantly having turnover and retraining and everything, it affects the final product. And the main goal here isn't for the US to just buy local, it's for the US to be able to sell worldwide. If a US company can be competitive in markets that also produce and have a high capacity of production, then we did something right, because we can go service those areas as well. So that's what I would say, is keep investing in the talent, helping businesses grow here so that talent stays.
Absolutely. Sandy?
Yeah, and I'll add in, I mean, clearly the location is a competitive advantage for the state here, but also you have a very business-friendly environment, which is something that you can foster here, continue to do that. That makes this a very special place. And the aerostructure ecosystem that you have is also one that's really going to allow you to grow businesses like this, which have, very high skilled technical capability, and allow people to continue to grow up in manufacturing and aerospace and defense as well, which are very, very prosperous parts of the industry.
Thank you so much. And I agree. I think that the things that makes us competitive, I agree with you. I think one of the things that makes us business friendly is we have a great partnership with the City of Tucson and Pima County, working together with the Chamber of Southern Arizona and really focusing on how do we make our economy strong. Giovanni, you mentioned small business. The Chamber of Southern Arizona is the convener of anything that has to do with small business with our Small Business Council. So we are not trying to reinvent the wheel, but actually putting together all the resources of small business support, whether you're starting one, in the middle of one, or exiting one, or growing one. And so with great partnerships that we have with all of our investors, with, like I said, Pima County and the City of Tucson, that competitiveness comes from that collaboration, from that opportunity to partner with the great leaders and decision makers in our region. All right, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but as we close today's discussion, what gives you optimism about the future of Southern Arizona and the future of North America collaborations? Sandy, I'll start with you.
Well, thank you for letting me go first on this one, because really this whole audience here, I mean, the fact that we have the leadership here today, the governor, the mayor, all the local county board, Pima, we've had everything here today. And the talented workforce that I know that we have that makes those big, beautiful aircraft over there. This is what gives me and helps us service them and get them back out on the road. that's what makes me optimistic. I am confident that we'll find a solution here. We'll be able to advocate. We'll go and we'll speak to representatives. And I really believe that the will of the people will come through on this.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I think we're doing a good job in general. Arizona is the #1 hotspot for foreign domestic investment, securing the biggest investment from a foreign company in the history of the United States. I mean, it was like $100 billion or something from TSMC. So they got to continue to do that. But like I always preach, today I've been preaching small business, but don't forget that we've been here the whole time, and we can still provide services to those big companies, and don't let us get forgotten.
Got it. Georgina.
Well, for me, actually, I think I'm in the best spot of everything because I'm in the business of fruits and vegetables. And what we've seen is this huge push for more consumption of fruits and vegetables. As human beings, we're always going to have to keep eating. And I'm sure that we're going to keep providing fruits and vegetables. That's what it is. Mexico has been supplying fruits and vegetables to the U.S. for the past over 100 years. And Arizona and Nogales is one of the key ports of entry for fruits and vegetables that feeds North America, the U.S. and Canada. So I'm excited to see what the future is going to bring in regards to keep promoting consumption, eat your fruits and vegetables, people. And, you know, especially with also part of the administration has this big push for being healthy through the way we eat. And so I'm looking forward to continuing that pattern and hopefully keeping the free trade so that we can continue enjoying the fruits and vegetables that we like year round.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, you heard it from Georgina. Eat your fruits and vegetables, for sure. Yes, a big round of applause. So I have one last question, but not for you to answer here. We'll answer it when we're out there because this is my personal question. When we talked about the USMCA agreement and the modernizing it and updating it, I am so intrigued what your thoughts are on how AI plays a role in that. And I'll leave it like that so I know you'll have many more people that will approach you and ask you about that question, but we'll talk about it later. For the time being, I want to thank you all. Thank you, our outstanding panelists, for sharing their expertise and perspective with us today. Please help me in giving them a big round of applause. Giovanni Garson, Georgina Felix, and Sandy Hutchinson. Today's conversation reinforced just how interconnected our economies, industries, workforce, and communities truly are, and why continued collaboration across business, government, and education and international partnerships is so important for the future of Southern Arizona. On behalf of the Chamber of Southern Arizona, thank you all so much for being part of this conversation with us and for being part of this event. Joe, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Carla, you did a wonderful job. You
Thank
can
you.
see Carla's our latest hire. I think we did a pretty good job of bringing Carla on board. Thank you, Carla. Thank you to our panelists for your insights, and thank you to all of you for taking time to be here today. If I could sit in the back listening, if I could identify maybe one key takeaway from our panel and from our earlier guest speakers, it's that we do need an extension of USMCA. So we urge you to call your federal representatives and tell them that to vote to reauthorize this this summer. So that's your homework, and we hope you'll do that. Finally, I want to share, I'm really excited to share with you a very clear example of our North American economies, of how they help each other, how we help each other succeed. Recently, we've been working with a company, and recently we found out that this company has decided to open an office and invest in Southern Arizona. And we talked about it last Friday, so you're on the ground floor of hearing about this today. BBA Consultants, a Canadian-owned engineering and professional services firm with over 45 years experience in the mining, energy, and natural resources industry, has recently chosen Metro Tucson for its next office.
Woo!
BBA is an employee-owned firm operating across the Americas. They've already got a team on the ground here looking at things, and they decided to pull the trigger. Arizona is a strategic market for them, and we look really forward to seeing what they build here. We have a special guest who flew a long ways to be here. I'd like to invite Francisco Barrios, who's here today, representing BBA, to stand up. I saw you somewhere up here, Francisco. There you are. We talked on Zoom Friday, and you caught the flight and got in here. I promised him we wouldn't drag him up here to talk, but I want you to please help me congratulate BBA and Francisco for their investment in Tucson, Arizona. Thank you. Appreciate that. I want to just conclude by thanking all of you today, and I invite you to please enjoy the reception and continue the conversation. And Francisco, I'm sure you're going to get inundated with the questions. So thank you, everybody, and safe travels. God bless.
All right. That was fun.
Yeah.
Good work. Good panel.
Did I miss something, or the questions did not resemble what we received?
Close.
Okay, yeah.
You guys did a great job. Great job, Sandy.
Oh, thank you.
You were amazing. You did such a good job. It was amazing.
Thank you.
You're so well poised and so like chill.
Thank you.
Like you literally made it what I wanted.
Yeah,
which is like
I'll give you mine, but I don't have my purse with me. It's somewhere around.
Really
yes,
good.
but thank you.
To the back.
And by the way,
Hi,
your remarks
¿cómo están?
and just by writing them, sitting there, were very good.
Johnny.
But he needs to get on.
They said
Okay.
Johnny. Que nos llama Juan. They said Johnny.
Likewise.
Then he said Johnny.
Of course. No, thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No. Un día fui con
Yes,
él a
thank
Canadá.
you for coming.
Let me say,
It was great.
hello.
Yeah, great. That was fun. I learned more about
Don't call me
food.
dad.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Hi, how
I
are
just
you?
realized.
All
So
the
good to see you.
texting.
I
Hola,
didn't take
Marta,
this
¿cómo
off.
estás?
Gracias.
Ay, muchas gracias. Thank you. Thank
Glad you're
you.
here.
¿Cómo estás? No sabía que ibas a andar aquí.
Oh,
fíjate.
thank you. Did you guys enjoy the conversation?
Ajá.